Okay, so good morning to you all. The purpose of this class is to have a revision on whatever that we have done so far. A few important things which we have left out, right? Especially when it comes to the topic of big data, the application of big data is very important, right? Where are we applying on this, whatever that we have conceptually learned, right? So that is the reason why I am just trying to present some of the case studies, and I am also giving pointers to you on what are the important case studies and where can you actually find them on the net, and why is that these case studies are so important. So these are some of the case studies which are apart from the case studies what is being very well presented in your curriculum, right? Curriculum talks about somewhere around 6 to 7 case studies, right? Apart from those case studies which is there in the unit 1 of your syllabus, we are also talking about certain important case studies and how do you find solution for these case studies, right? Before I start my class, a few important things which I wanted to talk to you about. One is, I hope you have received your internal assessment results, which was conducted in the last week. I have shared it to all of you of all the subjects. I hope you are all aware of it. There are no change of dates for your descriptive test as it was shared earlier in the WhatsApp group, right? Which is from 11th of June to 16th of June, and the schedule of the same will be passed on to you as soon as I receive the schedule from the main office. The schedule of the technical seminar, which was scheduled on 18th of June, will remain intact. I hope that you are all ready for the technical seminar with all paper presentations and things like that. And you also have mini project review on 19th and 20th of June. This schedule also does not change as per the circular of the communication which has been received from the Dean Academics, right? I hope I make myself very clear, and you are able to get, right? I just want to pause at this moment and see if you have any kinds of doubts with respect to the schedule or anything else. Can any one of you unmute and talk to me? Anyone please unmute and talk to me. Are you clear about all this schedule?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, fine then. Good. Okay, so the case studies what we are going to take for this session will be these case studies. I hope my screen is visible to all of you. Is it visible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. So, looking at some of the applications of why big data has grown to a larger level, and we also keep hearing about terminologies like machine learning, data science, data engineering, right? Artificial intelligence, and so many terminologies connected with respect to data, and also computational science, right? So all of these are branches which has come out from computer science. As and when we talk about data, which has a significant amount of growth and calls itself to be something called as big data, we have a different arena which comes into picture there, right? It may be natural language processing, it may be artificial intelligence, it may be generalized machine learning techniques, it may be data science methods, it may be computational engineering methods. We have lot of things that comes in between, right? So it is very important that the case studies whatever that we learn, right, on a real time basis, right, and try to understand how these case studies are there and how do you find the solution for these case studies. So that is the overall motto of this particular session that we are trying to do today, right? So we have already seen a lot of use cases of big data, right? There are big data explorations where you are trying to find out the data improvements, visualization techniques. How do you better visualize the particular data? and things like that. And at the other end, you're also trying to do integration of data from different sources, right? Making sure that you increase the capability of the data warehouse so that you have enough space to store the data that comes in, right? You are also talking about operational maintenance and increasing the operational efficiency of the system, right? And other cases where you are trying to talk about how best the data can be stored, how compressed the data can be stored, so that I optimally compress the data and store it in a very good way in the physical layer, so that the overall operational efficiency improves, right? We are also talking about systems where data becomes very critically important for understanding the security of that particular system, right? Especially when you are talking about cybersecurity today, the domain has completely got modified into what it was a 10 year before. 10 year before, it was just an operation on the network, a traditional network. Today we are talking about cybersecurity in a different terminologies, where humongous amount of data is being generated in the network, and that data should be sorted, it should be understood, it should be profiled for any kind of fraudulent, it should be profiled for some kind of an anomalous data packet that comes in. So a lot of things have changed in the last 10 years, and the cybersecurity domain itself has is moving towards a new name, right? That is called as cyber cognitive security, right? Where you are trying to talk about applications of machine learning, right? Using the machine learning techniques to make sure that the data, whatever that you are trying to talk about, is used for analysis, especially for fraudulent, anomalous packet analyzing. So many applications which comes under the cybersecurity domain, where we are trying to talk about how machine learning techniques can be applied on cyber world, right? Especially for security, right? If you see Google around about the term called as cognitive security, right? This particular topic has become a very innovative fashion in the people, for people who are working in the cyber security domain, professionals who are working in this domain. And there are few companies who have already produced some white papers on this particular domain, right? If you can see, you have IBM, you have GE, you have so many other companies who have just produced a lot of white papers on this, right? And this particular white paper, whatever that we talk about, talks about complete technical specifications and technical architectural specifications of that particular system of cognitive security. And we are looking at this as to a greater extent in the coming real time, right? And lot of applications that we talk about, whatever is the big data, that applications that we are trying to talk about, must be appropriately submitted, complemented with security techniques. If you do not have good security techniques in place, that means your system is prone for any kind of attacks, and that means it also means that your system is vulnerable for any kind of data attacks or data breach, right? So today this domain has become very, very important to look at, right? Other domains like customer satisfaction, right? Customer relationship management, these are all been part of the system for a very long time. And as and when the data keeps increasing, people are also looking at it for the usage of data, how the customer purchases a particular product or something like that. And this has been continuously going on, right? We have already spoken about recommender systems in many of our classes, right, held before, where we are trying to talk about how a recommender system can work, right, in a e-commerce based system, and how it can refer to a customer's priority and customer's preference of what is he or she is trying to buy, right? So this is how the several important use cases of big data basically comes into picture. So then there is an ATDN approach. ATDN is basically a data science engineering company, right, which is put up in US, and they basically have different style of working with big data, and their way of working on the big data is purely based on the requirement of whatever that you are trying to deal with, right? Data requirement or the requirement specifications, and how do you arrive at a particular solution based on the requirement. So that is how they are basically looking at, right? So the top criteria, what they basically look at is is how do you allow users to familiarize the consumption of interfaces, maybe web or the mobile interface. You're aware today that many of the web interfaces are facing a closure, right? The reason is because the mobile interfaces have become very popular today, and most of the people who are trying to look at any kind of e-commerce purchase or whatever is the kind of purchase that we are trying to talk about, they basically work on the mobile interface rather than the web interface today, right? Web interface is slowly losing its importance in the system today, right? That was not the case 10 years back, right? 10 years back, web interface was majorly used. The desktop-based systems were majorly used for doing any kind of commercial activities. Now it is not the case. You want to book a food on this something, you basically use Swiggy or a Zomato app and book it, right? Similarly, you want to book a taxi, you book an Ola or a Uber using a mobile interface, right? Which who does not have a who do not have a representation in the web aspect at all, right? Because looking at the case study of a Uber or Ola, it is not lucrative or it doesn't make sense for them to have a web interface at all at the first place, right? Because you are trying to book a mobile, you are trying to book a taxi when you are in a mobile basis, right? You may not have a reach of desktop at that particular point. So the Uber and Ola decided not to have a web interface at all, right? They just decided to have only the mobile interface, right? So likewise, you have seen different businesses having different kinds of interface. Some of them having both web as well as mobile interface. For example, net banking applications. Then you have a lot of other applications where the presence of the UI is available in both web as well as in the mobile interface, right? So whatever may be the mode of interface that a customer or a user basically does, it basically enables the business to unlock previously unusable data, right? So when you talk about a higher level of architecture of a big data system, it is unlocking big data, simplifying your warehouse, pre-processing your raw data, ingesting big data into it. At an architectural level, you are trying to implement a Hadoop centric reference architecture. You are trying to move from a batch processing into Hadoop system. You are trying to make a single point of contact with the Hadoop server. You are using massively parallel ETL tools to sort such a huge amount of data. You're looking at aggregators, result interfaces to back the legacy system of consumption. You're talking about Hadoop source files, which have a finest granularity for reuse. So these are the architectural level. These are at the higher level, right? So when you talk about architectural level and higher level, it is as good as you are talking about system which looks like a pyramid, right? So from a top side of a pyramid or a top view of a pyramid, you see a single point of it, right? That is the high level system hierarchy, right? When you talk about architectural level, when you go deep from edge of the point of that pyramid into the bottoms of that pyramid, that is the architectural aspect of it, right? You are trying to explore more systems and their designs and things like that, right? That is how you are basically looking at this particular system, right? Now when you talk about any kind of systems, right, any kind of requirement for a big data, right, the first one is you need to understand what is a business need of it, right? Without a business need, it is irrelevant to have such systems being implemented, or their whole sole purpose is not at all satisfied if you do not have a business requirement for it, right? That is the first and the foremost thing that anybody needs to understand, right? And when you are talking about any system that we are trying to implement, the first and the foremost thing that you need to understand is what is that system meant for, right? So here is a system where you are talking about usage analysis analytics, right? How a system is being used, how far a system is being used, and what is the analytics of it, right? This is something which is analogous to your Google Analytics systems, what you see, where you can understand the number of page hits, right? The page ranking system, the number of unique users who have visited a particular website, and so on, right? So this is the business need, right? You are trying to implement a system which is basically looking into the log files of a particular system and trying to find out the user logs, or trying to find out the user usage analysis, right? So the business need is to have large conglomerate to analyze the data of last 10 years of the web applications by using IIS logs. The logs received from the IIS were stored in multiple files, especially the daily logs. The data had been written in the free text, which was purely in an unstructured format, and also contained irrelevant data. You're talking about exact analysis criteria, parameters, and desired outcomes that were not known earlier, right? These are the business needs. The business need is last 10 years data needs to be analyzed of the log files, and they are supposed to be sorted, right? And they are supposed to be analyzed, and anything which is irrelevant needs to be omitted out. This is what is the business analysis, right? Business need of that particular system. Now, what was the solution that was proposed by the system? A traditional RDBMS system could not handle this problem, basically because the type of data and the volume of data was very, very huge. Right? You are talking about a usage analysis of a system. Let's say that you are talking about usage of Google.com. Right? Now, you are talking about the usage analysis of Google.com for a span of 10 years, right? Imagine the amount of log files that it would have created. Imagine the amount of data that it would have created. So it is a very huge data, right? It's a huge volume of data that we are trying to talk about. Now, whenever a volume comes into picture, the traditional RDBMS system doesn't work with that, right? It cannot work with such a high volume. So what was proposed by this particular company called as Atidan was to have a Hadoop-based performance system that could transform the raw data into reports very easily. And it should have been done with a fault tolerance and also with data inconsistencies, right? Remover with the data inconsistencies. So since Hadoop has a provision of data elasticity, right, and it can incrementally add data whenever it goes, so it was easy for it to scale from some GBs to petabytes, right? Right. If you talk about Google's log, right, for 10 years, it is more than 10,000, or sorry, 100 zettabytes, more than 100 zettabytes. That is the amount of log files that it basically generates, right? So based on whatever is the data size or the complexity, whatever that we have, we can basically find out what is the number of nodes that are required for doing such a huge amount of job, right? You know that in Hadoop 1.0, the number of nodes are restricted to 4,000. In Hadoop 2.0, the number of nodes can go up to 1 lakh nodes. That is the advantage here. So you can calibrate yourself on the requirement of number of nodes that needs to process this amount of data, and then activate those amount of data nodes for doing this particular job, right? Since we are also talking about data model where the log files, whatever that we talk about, do not have a particular format, right? The format keeps changing, right? For example, let's take a simple example of a log file that you have created for a C program, right? So once when you've executed your program, right, and it has compiled successfully, the log file just prints that the compilation is successful. Let's say that you have got some errors in that particular file, right, during the compilation. Then what happens in the log file? The log file basically has errors in it. So every log file, based on whatever is the compilation that you are trying to do, will have different types of data into it. So it is not structured, right? It does not always print successfully. There may be errors in different lines. So the important thing what you have to learn from this is every log file, whatever that you're trying to compare, will have a different schema, right? There is no template that you can create out of it, right? You cannot create some template and say this is the generic template that you are trying to use for a log file. You cannot create that. It has to be customized, model can be built out of it. Minimalist architecture, right? And it should basically be very, very dynamic and flexible in changes of the data, right? When you're talking about organizations who have completed new and unexpected insights on employees, customers, vendors, and other behaviors, right? There are possibilities, there are changes of system, there are changes in whatever is the log that we are trying to generate, right? There is a correlation between the usage pattern and the iteration that is being produced by the system. So there are lots of changes which it needs to accommodate, right? The solution for a 10-year long web application data is you use a Hadoop based architectural system which provides you schemaless architecture with dynamism in the data model. So this is how your system can look like, right? You can have online data stores. You can have Hadoop system with has Impala original data. You do transformation of the data. Then you have data mart, right? Then you have queries with respect to data, right? Then you have BI tool which comes as a front end tool or a front end GUI where you are able to query certain things to the backend Hadoop system, and you are able to get some data out of it, right? So this is the way in which the usage analytics is implemented using the Hadoop system, right? You can see that the monthly requests, the request types, the users who have logged in a certain request. So based on that, you can basically understand the usage statistics from different users. Given the fact of an example that we took of a google.com, there are more than 1 trillion plus users for such kind of system, right? You can't even imagine the number of users that who are there in Google server, right? So there are a lot of things which we need to understand with respect to that, right? So this is one of the case studies that we are looking at. The second important case study, what we are trying to look at, this is something which we do, which we you keep using on a daily basis, right? You want to create a bank account, you want to apply for a telephone connection, you want to apply for a new credit card, you want to apply for anything. The first and the foremost step that any provider would do is to collect something called as KYC, know your customer, right? So this is a customer data collection system. Now, when you're talking about any providers, let's take an example of a cable provider, okay, or a bank system, right? We'll take an example of State Bank of India, right? Because State Bank of India is one of the bank which has got highest number of customers, right? Now, let's say that it has got somewhere around 35 crores of customers into it. 35 crores of customers into it. Now, the bank has started new and it needs to collect the information of each and every customers for all the 35 crore people which it is trying to serve. Now, the problem which comes here is the data what you are trying to collect is a manual data. You are collecting manual data of name, right, age, gender, right, date of birth, address, permanent address, residential address, current address, right, their Aadhaar number, PAN number, etc., 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 and so on. So these data, whatever that you're trying to collect, right, on a daily basis, on a regular basis, just to find out whether the customer details are still intact or it has changed. So there has to be a system which will ensure that the customer itself will do this particular data, right? Or customer, see, any customer are reluctant to do any kind of work, right? There should be a system which will ensure that the customer will upload his data, upload his particular system. If not, if you right, he takes your details and everything, right? He locks in all the he writes everything on a piece of paper or an application form, and later his work is to transform that application form into a digital format. These are all cumbersome process and very, very costly process, So to avoid this, what can be done is that that there are customers who are large in numbers. There are billions of transactions that are received per day. They want to collect the data that is available in the public domain or in the social sites, right? So there must be a system which will allow the customer to enter their data and verify their details, right? So what basically any kind of financial institutions will do is that they will release a form, right, where the customer enters his data, electronic form where the customer enters his data, all the personal data, everything, and also punches in his Aadhaar number or the PAN card number or whatever it is, from which he gets a OTP, right, where he authenticates himself and does it, right? When you're talking about such kind of systems, you need a graph database to be used for analyzing the social data that comes in and analyze the transactions with respect to that, right? And ITDN is a company which basically delivered Hadoop-based solutions, where it has transformed the raw data of the customer into a graph database. Right, the aggregate customer information from different sources like social media, government sources. Right, government source in our case is the Aadhaar card, where you are trying to get the authentication, right? And all the patterns of usage of that particular customers are a customer is completely analyzed. You understand the link enabled analysis, risk monitoring, and so on. You facilitate decision making and customer delivery. So these are the solutions that you basically do for KYC, right? When you are talking about customer information, the information comes from web, it may come from social, it may come from channel partners, right, where you are given a franchisee for them to collect all the details. You have utility providers, you have Aadhaar, UIDI, which basically gives you the customer information, right? Looking at all these customer information, the Hadoop system does a big data processing, saves that into a graph database. Then after that, it basically does a pattern analysis, a link-based analysis, and gives you a part of the analysis report. And this can be a corporate change structure in income and expense changes, right? It can be related to artificial intelligence or machine learning techniques that you are trying to apply. It may be related to peer group analysis. So when you're talking about the advantages of Hadoop-based system for applying KYC into bank, the first and the foremost is the cost of the system is very, very low. That you need to pay him something, you need to pay the person who is trying to digitize that particular manual form into a digital form. You need to pay some more amount for other staffers who are involved in this process, right? And also Hello, is my voice audible?
Yes, sir.
At what state did the connection get cut off? Hello.
Hello, sir.
At what slide did the connection got cut off? Is my voice audible? Hello.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Gautam, at what slide did you see my connection being turned off?
So that KYC.
Okay, KYC. Okay, okay.
Yes, sir.
Just give me a second. I'm just reconnecting back. All of you, can someone
No, sir.
is it audible?
Yes, sir. Break, but your voice is breaking, sir.
Okay. Right. Suddenly the internet got snipped off. I'm just trying to connect from my mobile.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Was this the slide that we stopped at? Are you able to see the screen
No, sir.
now?
No.
Has the screen come up now?
Come and gone. Yes, sir.
Okay. So I think this slide should be visible now.
Sir.
Okay. Was this the slide that we stopped at?
Yes, sir.
Sir.
Okay. Fine then.
So one more case study that has been discussed by Atidian is that the email scanning and categorization using MongoDB. So in this particular case study, we basically try retrieving a lot of emails from the web account, and we have to categorize them, right, as spam, professional mails, or some kind of a categorization needs to be applied on it. And you are trying to do individual users for the front end access. Right. In this particular case study, you can see that the important issues will be scalability, reliability, and performance. And user should be able to receive a lot of spam mails where he is able to categorize it. So this particular architecture, what is being proposed, the technology that is used for this particular architecture is a MongoDB and a Drupal-based solution, where you are trying to have schedulers who will pull the header part of the mail and find out what mail it is, whether it is a legitimate mail or not a legitimate mail, store them in an intermediate catalog in the MongoDB, then transform the data of the recipient address and the user preferences, spam being removed, email of the body fetched and filtered by the records, and save the final catalog into the MongoDB. The emails from the final catalog will be pushed onto the front end, which is being designed by Drupal. Drupal is basically an open source on front end creator, right? So the key takeaways from this particular case study is that you basically try to understand the power of MongoDB and the collection of big data and of a daily mails that comes to that particular firm, and where you are trying to able to fasterly process it, easier to scale and flexible for this particular case. The task is to split into multiple subtasks and use algorithms to do this particular categorization, which includes performance as well as efficiency of system. Right. So this is how the entire architecture looks like. An email comes to a particular place, right? It may be a Gmail, Hotmail, or any kind of a mail, right? That is given to a job. An intermediate catalog is being created. There is some kind of a data transformation that is applied onto it, and a final catalog is created. And this particular final catalog is displayed onto your front end, which is Drupal-based systems. Okay. So looking at whatever that we are trying to talk about, right, in the today's class or whatever it is, right, we have different categories or applications where we can basically use big data. These applications are very small applications, and something that we see day in and day out, right? 3 case studies that we spoke about. One is the usage analytics. Second is the KYC. Third is the email scanning, right? All these case studies, whatever that we are trying to talk about, are applications of are generators of huge volume of big data, right? That is what we are looking at there. So anything that we are trying to talk about, or whatever that we are trying to talk about with respect to big data, has certain relevance with the tools and whatever is the processing that you are trying to apply for it, right? That is very important that we need to know, right? And whatever that is the tools and techniques that we have basically spoken about, and whatever the case studies that we are speaking about, talks about the problem, right? How do you solve that particular problem, right? And how do you use big data related platform to solve that particular problem, right? So today we are in a pandemic situation where coronavirus cases have gone up, right? This is a huge generator of data, right? If you are talking about a dashboard or a screen, right, which will show me the cases of corona cases throughout the world, right? Throughout the world, we have got 200 plus countries, and coronavirus is something which has not left any of the countries today, right? And if I have to create a dashboard and try to analyze the number of cases in each of these countries, the recovery rate, right, the number of cases who have recovered, then the number of death rate, number of people who have died, or the death rate in each country, whether it is higher or whether it is lower, I can basically do some kind of a research, right? If I take a case study of US, why is the death rate so much, right? If I take the case of India, death rate is very, very less with respect to the population size what we have got, right? So it is very, very important to do studies with respect to these things, right? Studies with respect to data analytics, find out how the death rate is trying to move. Can there be a predictive model which will tell me how the death rate can go, or can a predictive model be developed which talks about how a second wave of corona, which can come from China or any other countries, will behave like, right? This is completely the same scenario of what happened in 1918, the year 1918 when flu came into picture, right? And many of them who passed away in the entire nation, right? The same case. At that time, the population was less, right? Someone could bear it, and there were lockdowns even in during that particular time. But today, when we are trying to talk about, the population is at least 100 times more than what it was, because it's a 100-year back case study, 1 or 2 years back case study that we're trying to talk about. So, how big data can basically help in understanding this? Can there be any prediction to the future that we can do? Say that these are the death rates, these are the count. So, some kind of a model can be developed with these aspects. This is what we are trying to look at. Okay, so we will stop for today and come back tomorrow with some more things with respect to these case studies, right?